Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the third and final episode of the RxIntern podcast series brought to you by the MyPSA Advocacy Office. This series is dedicated to guiding and inspiring pharmacy students as they gear up for the internship journeys. I'm your host, Sydney, and today we're diving into a hot topic pharmaceutical industry internships. And in this episode, we'll be diving into what a typical day looks like for an intern in the pharmaceutical industry, the common challenges interns often face, and practical tips on how you can better prepare yourself for your own internship experience. So, whether you're curious about the fast paced environment of corporate affairs, the business side of marketing, or the detail oriented world of regulatory affairs, we've got you all covered. And today, we've got not one, not two, but three amazing guests who are here today to share their real life experiences and give us the inside scoop from the industry. So let's welcome Miss Janice, Miss Xuan from AstraZeneca, and Miss Yuckman from Zulik Pharma. It's really great to have you here today. So to start off, Miss Janice, could you just share a bit about your background, where you're from, and which university you graduated from?
So hi everyone, I'm Janice, currently undergoing my PRP training in a government hospital, and I graduated from UKM. So talking about my pharmacy journey, it actually started from my foundation studies that I discovered my interest in chemistry and also medical sciences. So it led me to this pharmacy study. But just a fun fact, many think like pharmacy is heavily rooted in chemistry, it actually leaned toward more to biology and clinical application. So that's how my pharmacy journey begins.
All right, thank you, Miss Janice. Now, moving on, Miss Xuan, could you tell us a bit about your background and what made you choose pharmacy as a career to pursue?
Hi everyone, my name is Xuan. I'm currently also undergoing PRP in Government Hospital. Graduated from Masa University, and I would say my pharmacy journey started from my SPM days, where my favorite subjects were actually biology and chemistry. I think same like Janice. And then I knew that I wanted to explore my career in the healthcare setting, so I was choosing between MBBS or pharmacy. Then it solidified into pharmacy because I encountered like community pharmacists who were very expert in like giving us medications, the right medications to treat our illness. So I wanted to discover more. And then eventually when I started my pharmacy journey in Masa, I realized that actually pharmacy plays a much more role than just giving medication. So that's how I ended up being pharmacy.
I see. Thank you so much, Miss Xuan. Now, last but not least, Miss Yuckman, could you just share where you studied and how your journey in pharmacy began?
So first of all, hi everyone, I'm Yukman. A pleasure to be here. So some basic background about myself. I'm currently a third year pharmacy student from Taylor's University. So how did my career from pharmacy begin is that it simply just began with a simple passion in science, especially in biology and chemistry. I think also same as Xing and Jenny. So I think what really sparked my interest was I was really curious about how the human body works and also how it can manipulate the biochemical processes to treat diseases. But what especially drew me to pharmacy specifically is actually the versatility that pharmacy degree offers. So I think with a pharmacy degree, right, you are not only limited to only one path. You can actually explore into various settings like hospitals, communities, or even pharma industries, regulatory bodies. There's so many different unconventional roles that you can also take on as long as you equip yourself with the right side skills. So I think that's the flexibility that really sparks my interest to pursue pharmacy.
All right. Thank you so much to all the speakers. It's always great to hear like how everyone as an aspiring pharmacist to know how your journey started. So I can see that all of us actually share this love for science, whether it's admiration for community pharmacists or just discovering your passion along the way. I think it really highlights how broad and meaningful this pharmacy field can be. So I can't wait to dive deeper into your experience. So moving on, let's talk about the choices you made when it came to your internships. Starting off with Ms. Yakman, I'd like to ask what made you choose the company Zulik Pharma and specifically in the marketing department for your internship?
So for your information, I've just finished my internship in Zulik Pharma, I think last month, which was a 3-month internship at Zulik. So my journey to Zulik Pharma actually began when my lecturer submitted my CV to the company. For a bit of context for everyone, so Taylor's University's pharmacy program actually do have an initiative called PSA, which stands for Pharmaceutical Industry Students Adoption. So actually through these programs, our pharmacy students are given the opportunity to undergo their industrial attachments with various pharmaceutical companies. So the placement are actually coordinated by our lecturers. But of course, we also have to go through companies' interview process, just like any other candidate outside lah. Yeah, so after going through the interview, I was fortunate enough to be selected as the marketing intern at Zulik Pharma for 3 months. Yeah, and as why for marketing, I think many people often associate pharmacy with clinical roles, but I wanted to explore beyond that. So the marketing department actually offered a chance for me to understand the business and communication side of healthcare, and it was really an opportunity for me to learn how medicines reach the market, how brand positioning works, and how we can communicate complex health messages effectively. So it was something really different, and I was excited to step out of my comfort zone.
But thank you so much for sharing. I think it's really interesting that you were able to dive into something quite different from what we usually know. So thank you very much. Next, I'd like to ask Ms. Xing and Ms. Janice, who both completed their internships at AstraZeneca. So first off, Ms. Xing, was there anything specific about AstraZeneca or the corporate affairs department that drew you to intern there?
I would say I chose AstraZeneca initially was because of like how other interns had great experience having their internship there. I think Miss Jenny came before me. I think she started her internship earlier on, and then there's a lot of feedbacks and there's a lot of sharings from different batches of interns from AstraZeneca saying that they learn a lot. So I chose AstraZeneca, and it was by chance that I managed to get an internship with AstraZeneca because of their Pharma Ready Certification Course Program, which is called PRCT. During my time, I was the first batch of PRCT where they opened to every other universities. So before this, they had PRCT, but it was just within same university, which is only maybe to one university. So they only recruit students from a certain university, but after that, they open up to other people. That's where I get the chance to join. So through PRCT, I get to know people there, and then I get some connections, and then I eventually got an internship after I completed my final exam. And then in terms of why I chose corporate affairs department, it was also fun fact. I have not known anyone coming from corporate affairs background as an intern, and I've heard many people intern in marketing, regulatory affairs, medical affairs, which to me is like okay, it's something common that pharmacy student goes to, but corporate affairs is something that no one has ever touched into. That's why I chose, and I think it really opened up my eyes to see like there's much more things that pharmacy or anybody can do in pharmaceutical industry in terms of corporate affairs role.
Okay, that's quite interesting. I also didn't expect corporate affairs as something a pharmacist can actually try. So it's really interesting to hear about your experience. Now, moving on, how about Miss Janice? What attracted you to AstraZeneca and what made you choose the regulatory affairs department in particular?
So for me, I think my reason is quite simple because I became familiar with AstraZeneca during the COVID-19 pandemic. I believe everyone does so because of their vaccine. So also like among my seniors, AstraZeneca was also frequently mentioned as one of the top choices for industry exposure. So that's why I chose AstraZeneca. So initially I had two options, which were medical affairs and also regulatory affairs. My first choice was medical affairs to join the department, but unfortunately the medical affairs department, they require a minimum commitment of 3 months since I only had 2 months for the exposure. So I chose the regulatory affairs. So what actually attracted me to the regulatory was the curiosity. How do the vaccines and drugs get registered? How does the MPRA involvement look like beyond the lecture notes? And I also wanted to understand the documentation and regulatory pathways. And thankfully, they accepted me. That's how I chose them and chose the regulator.
Right. Thank you so much for sharing, Miss Janice. And it's really interesting to see like how each of you came into your internships and what really sparked your interest to go into it. I think it could be from like just like Miss Yakman. She mentioned the university coordinate program or just following your curiosity. So your department choices definitely reflect the intentional thinking in your initiative. So it's very interesting and very cool to hear about. And I really enjoy hearing about how you guys explored corporate affairs, dive into marketing, or even just gaining exposure in regulatory affairs. Thank you very much for sharing. So next up, I'd like to know more about how your typical internship life was like. And I'm sure many of us are actually very familiar with the day-to-day life of a hospital or community pharmacy intern, but the industry world is, I think, is a whole different game. So starting off with Miss Singh, I'd like to ask you, did your daily tasks in corporate affairs department follow a set routine or did they vary from day to day?
That's a very interesting question because in corporate affairs, I would say there's only one word to describe, which is unpredictable. Things happen, and then the next moment you have to complete something, and then after that you will have like a certain rest period, which is actually not really resting, but you're also preparing for the next wave, the next busy wave coming up. So basically corporate affairs, things are really unpredictable. There can be a lot of things happening. If there are big projects coming up, let's say there's a launch about a certain new product, then that's where corporate affairs comes in to help manage the relationship with important stakeholders, especially with governments, and also medias. So that's where corporate affairs plays their role. And then sometimes when ministries have important agendas or important meetings, and then you will get busy again preparing for their agendas and then preparing to attend certain events. But as an intern, we don't go until that level. We just mainly help with the material preparation in terms of, let's say, videos or pictures or certain write-ups. Yeah. So as intern, I wouldn't say I'm very, very busy, but I can say that the team itself in corporate affairs is quite a busy and fast-paced team because, as I said, things can happen anytime, right? So they're always on the go. So I would say that's how my day-to-day life is. Just be on standby, prepare to receive a task, complete it, and then submit it, and then wait for the next task comes up. So it varies a lot throughout my months of internship.
I see. Thank you so much, Miss Singh. Sounds like a lot of adaptability that you had to really make sure you were on. So thank you so much for sharing. Now I'd like to move on to Miss Janice. Could you just paint us a picture of a typical day of a regulatory affairs department during your internship?
So as an intern, I work like standard working hours from 8 to 5. Every morning, I started with the checking emails to see if I got any tasks assigned, following by creating a to-do list to plan my day. I started to do my to-do list after I made my mistakes of forgetting doing some work. So that's how it led me to create to-do list after that. And then we also had a self-learning platform where we were expected to read up on regulatory guidelines. So I often set personal goals for daily reading, but also at the same time, I prioritize completing works assigned by my senior managers, senior colleagues. And then in AstraZeneca, there's a snack area that I like visiting, and sometimes I coincidentally met my friend and I will chit chat with them lah. And then on Fridays, actually, work typically would slow down by 4 p.m. And then my friends and we would like relax by playing Nintendo there because there's actually a designated area for us to play to relax. So I believe those who have worked there before must have enjoyed this section too. And then during my free time, I also work on my internship report when there were no tasks assigned to me. So I did my own university work because it's like kind of a compulsory work for us to do. And then before I left for the day, I would review my to-do list and then tick off the completed tasks and prioritize unfinished one for the next day. Yeah, this is how my typical day looked like.
Thank you for sharing that, Miss Janice. I love how there's like a work-life balance still, where you get to have fun with friends, but you were still very systemic. So that's really cool to know. Moving on, I'd like to ask Miss Youngman, what did your internship days in the marketing department usually look like?
So for some context, so actually my company, Zulik Pharma, they actually adopted hybrid working model, which I only need to go in office 2 to 3 days a week, while for the rest of the time I will work from home lah. And I think this arrangement actually give a good balance of independence for ourselves, and also you get to have a sense of how to get a balance between teamwork while working from home. Yeah, because while working from home, we also need to join online meetings and also complete tasks. But I would say my day-to-day tasks actually varied depending on the projects that I was assigned to, similar as Xing just now. So on some days where there's an upcoming event, I will assist in the preparation in marketing-led events such as the product launches and webinars. While on the other days, my preceptor will actually assign me other tasks like analyzing market data, which is heavily associated with my departments, where I need to analyze brands and competitor performances, and also annotating references for product literatures for any presentation decks. So I think these were definitely areas out of my usual comfort zone as a pharmacy student, as I does not have any marketing background before this. But I'm really grateful for my preceptor and also my colleagues for the opportunity for guiding me into this smooth transition to this marketing role. Yeah, and also exposing me into the business side of healthcare. So as you know, marketing is like the center of a brand. It actually needs to liaise with various departments. So I also had the pleasure to attend various events from other departments, like from medical affairs or even sales team-led event. So these experiences gave me the chance to interact and also connect with colleagues out of my own functions. And I think I've also gained valuable insights from them as their day-to-day responsibilities and also their job scope. Yeah, so I think that's all from me.
Thank you, Ms. Yatman. I really liked that you had so much more experience outside of your departments as well. I think that was very interesting. But thank you to all the speakers. Really great to hear what your daily routines will look like. Helps all of the listeners actually to paint a picture. So whether it was team meetings or daily tasks, or even into like some data analyzing and even some Nintendo games, I think is really interesting to hear. So your internship definitely provided us like a lot of valuable hands-on experience beyond what you get in the classroom. Now, moving on, let's talk more about your work and structure throughout your internship. So, Miss Janice, I'd like to ask you, what are some of the departments in the pharma industry where pharmacy interns typically get placed, and what kind of tasks can they expect?
So based on my observation, pharmacy interns at AstraZeneca can be placed in departments like my department, regulatory affairs, medical affairs, QA, quality assurance, and also marketing. So in regulatory affairs, I work on tasks such as preparing tender renewal documents, assisting with new product registration, updating the internal systems, and then communicating with MPRA. And I actually also got to observe how the post-marketing surveillance procedures go, and then including like how the samples are submitted to MPRA. What interns actually do is actually very puzzle thing. That means a very small task that will complete the whole project, because what we knew was very little, and what we could do was to assist them. And then in medical affairs, my friends were involved in like scientific data compilation, compiling the healthcare professional inquiries, and they even went for the like field visits to hospitals and also healthcare events. So another one is in quality assurance. Interns actually ensured compliance now with internal guidelines reading and also systematic documentation. So that's what I know about their task. I believe Xing maybe have more to share.
Thank you so much, Miss Janice. Now, I'd like to ask Miss Yukman, based on your observation, where do pharmacy students being placed the most in industry settings?
Yeah, so I think generally for pharma industry, I can see that most of the interns are typically get placed under departments like marketing, medical affairs, and also regulatory affairs. But it's not just limited to this, but can observe that mainly fall under these few departments. So in medical affairs, you'll be more likely to work on literature reviews instead of the business sides of the products, and also maybe to assist with educational-led events or supporting medicational information requests from the healthcare professionals. And for regulatory affairs, I would say that it is actually more document-intensive unit where you'll help prepare submission documents for product registrations, also renewal of product listing and liaising with relevant health authorities. Yeah, so I think every department actually offers a different perspective into the pharmaceutical world. So no matter where you get placed, it will definitely be a valuable and enriching experience for you.
Thank you so much for your insight, Ms. Yakman. Now, last but not least, I'd like to ask Ms. Xing. So, in your experience, which departments do pharmacy interns usually get placed in, and what kind of work do they typically do there?
I think based on my experience talking to different interns, most of them will be placed under marketing firstly, and then followed by medical affairs, and then regulatory affairs. I think same as Lukman mentioned. I think why most of them will be placed under marketing is because a company will have a lot of different products, right? So different products, they may require different marketing team to really focus on highlighting the brand itself. So there will be a lot of more positions available in marketing department as compared to other departments. So medical affairs as well, it depends on the company's therapeutic areas, right? So if they have more therapeutic areas, which they need more people to really understand the disease, the product, the drug, then they will have more people going into medical affairs to read up papers. In my understanding, my friends who were in medical affairs, they sometimes will follow MSL as well to go for events or to talk with the healthcare professionals to discuss scientifically about recent drugs used to treat certain diseases. And then for marketing, I think like what Lukman has mentioned, mostly is about preparing marketing materials to be used for product launches or to highlight product brands. And then for corporate affairs is slightly rare, and it's not every company would have a corporate affairs department. So for corporate affairs, usually there's only one position available for interns. And you have to really check out whether the company has a corporate affairs team, or is it like a corporate affairs plus market access combined together as a team. So that's generally what I think where pharmacy interns would go to in the pharmaceutical industry.
All right. Thank you so much, Ms. Xing. Thank you to all three of you for the great breakdowns, actually. It's quite helpful to hear how diverse the opportunities are, from handling regulatory documents, communicating with people like NPRA or medical affairs and quality assurance, or even the marketing department. I think even I myself, it's very educational actually, because it definitely busts the myth of like what an industrial pharmacy intern may do. I think a lot of people assume like R&D or like some sort of manufacturing. So I think this definitely paints a much bigger picture for everybody. Now, moving on. So we're going to shift gears a bit and talk about preparing for the industry. So you can just share any advice you believe is helpful for students to brush up their skills. So starting with Ms. Yakman, from your perspective, what are the must-have skills or knowledge areas students should brush up on before starting an industry internship?
I would say that it really depends on the department that you are attached to. For example, if you are placed in regulatory affairs, then it would make sense for you to be more familiar to be with the documentation systems and the regulatory workflows involved. While on the other hand, if you are attached to the manufacturing side, I believe brushing up on knowledge like good manufacturing practices would definitely be beneficial for your internship. So that said, the most important skills to have, regardless of the departments, are actually your interpersonal and also your soft skills. So strong communications, adaptability, and also the ability to work well in a team are very essential in a pharma function. So I think that these are actually the core skills that will support you in any role throughout your internships, because you'll be building relationships with your colleagues, along the way, and how you can maintain the connections is actually very important for your future as well. So I would say if you are actually going into marketing like I did, be prepared to step into unfamiliar territory as a pharmacy student. So you'll encounter terms and concepts out of the pharmacy like business analytics, branding strategies, or even sometimes involving graphic design tools. So it will be helpful if you are equipped with these kind of skills. And also, generally is to be open and also be open in learning and doing your own research throughout the attachment. So the self-initiatives actually really put on a good reputation on yourself. So it shows that you're actually willing to step out of your comfort zone and also to learn more things. Yeah. So I would say on top of that, maybe some basic Excel and PowerPoint skills will be helpful for your internship, especially for presentation as well as data analysis.
Right. Thank you so much for your helpful insight, Ms. Yokman. Next up, I'd like to ask Ms. Janice, what should students definitely not overlook when preparing for their internship?
So for me, more than the technical knowledge, I believe like being proactive, curious, and eager to learn are the most important traits for newbies. Because for sure they would expect that we do not know anything. So you don't need to know everything at the start, but what matters you is the attitude and willingness to grow.
Thank you, Ms. Janice. Now, last but not least, Ms. Xing, any skills that you think gave you a head start when you first joined?
I think I agree a lot with what Ms. Janice and Ms. Xuan have mentioned just now. It's very important to at least have a good attitude to start off right first, and then the technical skills you can build up after that. Because as an intern, they know that you really don't know anything, right? And you're there to learn. So as long as you have the heart to learn and you're willing to learn and be humble, then it will be a very good start. And also, I would say it's important to brush up certain things like communication skills, the art of speaking. It's never something embarrassing or ashamed to like speak up your own ideas if you have a good suggestion to suggest to the team, because I think they would be more than happy to accept it if it's gonna help them to solve their problem. If you're able to contribute something, even if it's a small thing, to them, it's gonna be like a very big thing, and you can take it as like a small achievement that you have achieved throughout your internship, which I believe is gonna be a very good experience after you finish off your internship. And also, I would say if you are able to adapt fast, especially since industry is a very fast-paced area, then it would be beneficial as well, because people would want you to sometimes perform under stress, and even though they don't have very high expectation, but it's always good to always keep up with their pace so that you can learn as much. And last but not least is to always have good interpersonal skills, because from corporate affairs experience is that it's always important to build meaningful connections around you, because you don't know when you will need their help in your own things. So sometimes when you have the more connections you have, the more people you know, you will learn out of your own scope as well sometimes.
Thank you so much for sharing, Ms. Xing. It was actually very insightful. I think it's really interesting that all of you have emphasized it's not just about technical knowledge, even though, yes, having them is very helpful and gives you an upper hand, but it's really more about the soft skills like communication, adapting, and being proactive is what truly matter. Because I believe a lot of us hyperfixate on having an outstanding resume or having a lot of diverse skill sets. So knowing that just having some passion, being proactive, and being humble is what really matters, I think is very, very reassuring to hear. Thank you so much for sharing this. Now let's move on to like valuable lessons and some key takeaways that you have learned throughout your internship. Starting off, I'd like to ask Ms. Xing first. What was the most valuable lesson you learned during your time as an intern?
I've learned to be more able to speak up my own ideas, because previously in my team in corporate affairs, all my managers are very open-minded people. They always share a lot about their experience and insights when they're dealing with like the important stakeholders, which really opened up my eyes a lot about how Malaysia healthcare system works. So in corporate affairs, because they mainly deal with government relations, as mentioned, right, and also in media. So there are a lot of things that we never really see and we will never learn in pharmacy syllabus, but they are always sharing it with me. So I always learn new things about Malaysia healthcare system, especially public health. And I think that's one of the technical lessons that I've learned, to know about the public health issues, how can we resolve it, the government policies that helps to tackle the public health issues. And then in terms of soft skill wise, I think I've managed to sharpen my adaptability skills, to also perform under pressure where there were times things just come so last minute, but you still have to get it done fast and accurate. And I think the interpersonal skill was also something very, very important that my managers have taught me, because seeing how they interact with people out of our own department, right? Our department is a very, very small team. And because we are a supporting function as a corporate affairs, we are always working with different teams like sales team, marketing teams, regulatory affairs team, sometimes even oversee from other countries teams, right? Always seeing them interacting with other people and how they forge connections is something that I am always inspired, because they don't just form meaningful connections, but they also make things work, and eventually they achieve something great together at the end of the day.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Ms. Shen. It was really insightful to hear. Next, I'd like to ask Ms. Yakman, if you had to choose one key takeaway through your internship, what would it be?
So I would say the biggest lesson, or rather key takeaway from my internship experience, especially in the pharma industry, was actually not to limit yourself. So I understand that interns oftenly may feel inferior to their colleagues, or what we rather say is imposter syndrome, throughout the internship process, because you will feel that you're actually not knowing as much as the colleagues there. And sometimes if you want to help, but you're not sure how you can offer your help there. So I would think that you just have to get over that phase as soon as possible, because it's really important to get yourself out of the comfort zone, and also be more proactive in offering your help on what the thing that you might be able to help in, I would say, because it's so important to put yourself out there to show people that you are really taking the initiatives to learn. So from there, people only will acknowledge you and also be more willing to give you tasks. And from there, you actually can learn from the task and also knowing more colleagues throughout the process. Yeah, it's not just actually you have to report to your preceptor every day, but also try to expand yourself beyond there and also know the colleagues from your own departments and understand what are the job scopes that they involve in their day-to-day life, so that you can actually understand this position even better. And also I would say, relating back, not to limit yourself, is that pharmacy students often think that they have to follow a strictly clinical path, right? So from this attachment, I would say there's actually so many possibilities out there for pharmacy students. So for example, from this internship, I can see the potential of a pharmacist health, where so many of them are involved in several different departments and even in business analytics sides. So the skills that we learn as a pharmacist are actually so transferable and so much potential. So don't be afraid to explore other roles that seem unconventional to a pharmacist.
All right. Thank you so much, Ms. Yakman. Very insightful. I definitely learned a lot. Next, last but not least, Ms. Janice, was there a moment that really stuck to you or changed how you see the industry?
Talking about proactiveness, I would say it very changes my mindset to in this industry. Internship, it's actually the most valuable thing, I would say, because 2 months wasn't enough for me to explore the depth of the regulatory affairs world, as we are a newbie, so they won't give us much work. So being curious and always ask for work when you are free, it really shows that you are a really dedicated person, like I would say. And then it actually is sometimes, I would say, like the comments from my managers and my senior colleagues, they would say like they need proactive proactive interns that will help them. This is the really important key takeaway for everyone.
All right. Thank you, Miss Janice. I think these are all great insights from all of you. I really liked and how it's very interesting actually that you all emphasize proactiveness, being vocal, and just putting yourself out there, not limiting yourself to what you know and just stepping out of your comfort zone. I think it's very clear that these soft skills are just as important as the technical skills and knowledge that we gain. And I also liked how Miss Shen mentioned that building connections and actually working together as a whole team or company really brings together the outcome that we want or the achievement that we can get. So it's really nice to hear that it's not just about being alone and doing things on yourself, but also more about teamwork. So thank you so much, everyone, for sharing. Now, moving on to a topic that's, I'm sure, is on everyone's mind, especially people who are about to start their internship. So, how can interns really shine and leave a strong impression during their placement? Starting with Miss Shen, in your opinion, what made some interns stand out from the crowd?
I would say what Miss Janice mentioned just now, right? Being proactive to take initiative is something that really makes you stand out because you're always showing effort to volunteer and to help others, right? If you're able to be proactive and also help others to solve problems, I think in industry, basically, if you're able to provide a solution to the team, you are definitely going to stand out than the rest. So to be able to be creative in your solution and to be able to speak up your mind and to present your ideas confidently, it will definitely make you shine a lot and it will definitely lead you to go a very long way in the industry.
Thank you, Miss Shen. Now, I'd like to ask Miss Janice your opinion on this.
I think what makes you shine is your dedication, sincerity, integrity in your work. Even like interns, we work on small tasks only. We have to be sincere lah. We do them well. We don't think it's because it's a small task, so we just try doing it. It just okay lah. And also be respectful and helpful to your colleagues as well, and maintain a good ethic is very important lah. So it's actually not about being perfect. It's about showing that you care about the work you are doing. You want to know what you are doing.
Right. Thank you so much, Miss Janice. Now, lastly, Miss Xuan, do you have any personal tips for students wanting to leave a good impression during their placement or internship?
It all comes down to what we have mentioned earlier. Like some of the points are like be more proactive in no matter whatever you do, and don't be afraid to try and explore new things, even it's out of your comfort zone. And I think that one really important thing is that you don't wait to be told on what you need to do, but instead volunteer yourself to do the tasks and express your interest, maybe in joining meetings or events under your departments, or also even other cross-functional departments if possible. And this really shows that you are actually taking the efforts to put yourself out there and learn more beyond what is offered to you, and don't confine yourself within your own departments, I would say. And also what I've mentioned earlier, do ask a lot of questions. It's actually showing that you are engaged and invested in the work. Even small things like contributing ideas during team discussions or helping out with a colleague can actually leave a strong impressions. And as mentioned earlier, we often have that imposter syndrome, but I believe that as a pharmacy students, we can actually bring fresh ideas and unique perspective to the table. And not only that, by speaking up and also sharing your thoughts, even in small little ways, you gradually build up your presence within the team, and people will eventually start to notice you. And over time, it naturally increases your visibility as well as your credibility, even as an intern.
Thank you so much for sharing all of your personal tips and what students can do right now. It's really good insight, and I really enjoyed that all of you just continue to emphasize that it's not about being perfect, but it's actually just about being proactive, staying humble, but stay confident as well to speak up your mind and share opinions. So thank you very much. Now, let's just wrap things up with some final advice that you all would like to share. So I'd like to ask Miss Janice first, if you could give one solid piece of advice to those gearing up for a pharmaceutical industry internship or just to pharmacy students in general, what would it be?
The advice is set a personal goal before you start. for me because I wanted to understand how pharmaceutical companies interact with MPRA and overall regulatory process, drug registration. So actually having a goal gives you the direction and motivation throughout your internship. And then at the end of the internship, you will know that, oh, you get something, you know something, you understand something. And of course, be mentally and physically prepared because workplace environment is very different from the university. You're not only needed to be smart, you have to be versatile, flexible, you have to know what you are going to do. So I just want to wish everyone who plans to apply for an internship all the best and stay curious and don't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone.
All right. Thank you so much, Miss Janice. Now, next up, Miss Xing. What would your golden piece of advice be?
I would say connection. Having connections, it's very important in the industry. Industry may seem very, very big when you first started because you're still new, you don't know anything, you don't know anyone. But I would say as a student itself, what you can do to start preparing yourself before you enter the industry, other than setting a goal like what Ms. Janice has mentioned, right? It's also the important to start build your network. So you can always show proactiveness, your volunteerism spirit ever since your university stay itself. It's never too late to start. So whenever you are free or whenever you're curious about something, you want to learn something, just go ahead and take that step and just start doing it. And then eventually when you have a pool of networks or a pool of connections of people, then you can start asking questions. You can start, getting to know more about the industry. And then I think with good connections, you can enter the industry a bit smoother rather than just entering it aimlessly or not knowing anything at all. It's always good to have someone out there who have a certain experience in the industry to help you out rather than just you going through everything alone. So I would say network and connections are very important as a student before you enter industry.
All right. Thank you so much, Mixing Chen. Now, last but not least, I'd like to ask Ms. Xuan, do you have any advice you'd like to share with those getting ready for their own internship or just to pharmacy students in general?
I would definitely agree with Janice and also Xuan. But on top of that, maybe I would highlight on starting to build your portfolio early as a student. I would suggest everyone to be involved in events more and also take up leadership roles by joining student societies or even other clubs. And these experiences will really help you to grow both personally as well as professionally. And as what mentioned by Ms. Janice just now, it's really important to be versatile, especially an intern in the pharma industry. So I think by equipping these soft skills, it actually better prepare for you to before you enter the internship in the pharma industry. And it really not only look good on your CV, but it can be the edge that you need to stand out during the internship selection process. Because as everyone know that it's quite competitive in this pharma industry landscape. So you really need something to stand up for you to be having to increase your chances of entering your internship in the pharma industry. And also on top of that, I would say most importantly is to stay open-minded and also enjoy the journey throughout your internship process. It's really an valuable experience, I would say. And it's really one of a kind of learning experience that you can never get from the classroom itself. And because you are actually interacting with the real world out there, the real working life and all the experiences are actually so valuable. So make most of all the moments and have fun in the process.
All right. Thank you so much, Ms. Yatman. I think all of your advice really ties together so well. These are a lot of things that we tend to forget, setting personal goals. What Miss Janice says, it really helps us stay on top of our game and keep going. And just like what Miss Singshun said, building your connections, expanding your network. I think this is something we tend to forget and we forget how important it is. And lastly, of course, from Miss Youngman, just by being open-minded, staying curious, it really opens doors and keeps things more diverse. So thank you so much for sharing all of this. I'm sure these are practical and empowering steps that will help students succeed in the future. So thank you so much for all of your heartfelt insights. I'm sure our listeners who are listening here right now will walk away with plenty to reflect and apply, even me myself. And with that, we've reached the end of our final episode of RX Intern. A huge thank you to our amazing guests, Miss Janice, Miss Xuan, and Miss Yokmun for sharing such honest, insightful stories from their industrial internships and experience. So it was really helpful and insightful. So we hope this episode has given you a clear picture of what life in the pharmaceutical industry can look like and maybe even inspire your next steps. So if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to follow, share it with a friend, or maybe even your batchmates. Until then, this is Sydney signing off from RX Intern. Thank you so much for listening and all the best on your pharmacy journey. Stay curious, stay motivated, and most importantly, stay pharmtastic. Thank you.